Russia just will ignore this. Because the NATO officials, they're a little bit almost crazy.
You must understand that, again, pieces of paper and good words don't provide the protection that our nation needs to truly believe in any possibility of peace. Nobody wants peace more than Ukrainians, who never ask for any of this hell that has been brought upon us.
Well, we know that there has been plenty of what we're calling shuttle diplomacy coming up between both sides in the Ukraine war. Volodymyr Zelensky has been meeting Emmanuel Macron in France. The two leaders also spoke to Keir Starmer, with Emmanuel Macron saying that the latest sanctions on Russian oil and frozen assets could be a game changer. That comes, of course, ahead of talks between the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow tomorrow. Well, ahead of those talks, let's speak to Sergei Markov, former advisor to Vladimir Putin. Good evening to you, Sergei Markov.
Yes.
Good evening. You can hear me okay, can you?
Good evening. Good evening.
Hello. Now, the meeting tomorrow, what do you hope will come out of it? And do you think it could prove significant?
I hope that peace condition will be discussed and people come to the decision that peace in Ukraine should be, and this war will be stopped. Because for us, for Russians, the strategy, because for us it's not war between Russia and Ukraine. It's a civil war inside Russian people. You should remember that Kiev was Russian capital 3 centuries, even more. And Ukraine was part of Russia more than 1,000 years.
Right.
Much more than United States exists.
Well, you're taking us back in history.
So for us, the strategy
all right. Well, let's just stick with what we have, the situation now, which is that Ukraine feels that it has red lines, which include keeping its territory and security guarantees. Do you think the Russian side are prepared to?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
No. It's propaganda of criminal Zelensky. In fact, Ukraine 90% want peace as soon as possible, and they're ready to give Russia not only Crimea and Donbass, but even Kharkiv and Odessa. And by the way, 80% of the population of Kharkiv and Odessa will be happy to be part of Russia. But Zelensky doesn't want, because if a war is over, it will be elections. In this election, Zelensky has 0 chances to be elected as president, because most of the Ukrainians hate him. Because for a very simple reason. Because he's stolen billions of dollars and euros from Ukrainian budget, and because Zelensky promised the peace and put country to the tragedy of war. Well, so Zelensky has the red line. But Zelensky will have like peace anyway.
Okay, if I could just ask you a question, because I think your views on Mr. Zelensky are quite clear. Your views on what you view as the Russian right to its part of Ukraine. But can we just concentrate on what is happening? We have a meeting tomorrow, yes, which could be a pivotal moment. What do you think President Putin will be wanting to get out of that meeting?
Russia, I think Kremlin very interesting to get at least information about this peace plan, because we had 28 peace plans, then 24 peace plans, then 19 peace plans, then in negotiation in Miami, so many different plans. And in fact, we don't have specifically what Americans suggested to Russia. It's first. Secondly, it's important is what kind of position in those plans. Russian demands is very simple. Russia fighted not for territories, because Russia is a great country by territories. Russia fighted for having no anti-Russia by method of terror. So Russia first demands stop terror in Ukraine, because they strongly believe that there are terroristic regime in Ukraine, a neo-Nazi regime which is led by Jewish Zelensky.
Well,
it's
let's
paradox of the history.
not.
The Jew is head of neo-Nazi regime, but it's reality.
All right, Mr. Markov, let's try and stay civil because, that I know what your views are, but let's not chuck insults around. I'd just like to talk to you, person to person, just to try to get your views on whether you think that tomorrow will prove possibly a turning point towards finding a way to end this war. What do you think?
I hope yes, but as analyst, I think no, because Zelensky told that he likes this plan. If he likes this plan, it means that this plan of peace will not work because Zelensky wants the war. And Russian demands is very simple. Official status to Russian language, no political repression against Russian language, no political repression against Orthodox Church, no political repression against Ukrainians who believe that Russia should be friendly to Ukraine. Do you have something about such position as this Donald Trump's plan? I know. I didn't see such a position. So they mostly discussed territory exchange of some small piece of Donbass on the peace. But Russia fight it not for Donbass territory. Russia fight it for Ukrainian democracy, for Ukrainian freedom of people, freedom from terror, so denazification, and also for neutrality of Ukraine.
All right. Well, you're saying that Ukraine should retreat from areas of the Donbass region that it still holds, and that is something that Kyiv says it will never do. Let me ask you something else, Mr. Markov. The head of NATO's military committee has said today that preemptive strikes on Russia could be considered defensive action because of the recent incursions from Russia. Now, tell me, how would Russia respond to that?
Russia just will ignore this because the NATO officials, they're a little bit almost crazy, and they are threat to the European countries because they speed up military hysteria for the domestic purposes, specific political domestic purposes. You may know that Macron now has popularity less than 10%, and mostly popular politician is Marine Le Pen, who for sure will win free and fair elections, presidential elections in France. But Macron decided to arrest Le Pen, not to allow her to take part in elections. That's why Macron used military hysteria not for giving opportunity to Marine Le Pen to take part in power. Of course, he's interested about it. So we're ignoring this a lot of statement of different NATO officials who understand they are military, they're crazy, they're irresponsible.
You just would ignore that. You don't think it amounts to anything.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Sergei Markov, thank you for talking to us on Times Radio this afternoon and this evening. Quite interesting that a couple of you got in touch during that interview, and John Green will be very happy that the interview is over because he said, cut the Markov interview, it is ridiculous, and why are you interviewing him? He doesn't even acknowledge that Ukraine exists. Now, you heard him. I mean, he's got his very, very firm views, and I asked him to cut the insults a little bit, but there we are. We tried to explore with him what might happen tomorrow. We will see when that meeting happens between Witkoff and Putin. Let us speak now to Yaroslav Yurash, a Ukrainian MP from Volodymyr Zelensky's party, who has also fought on the front line during the war. Thank you for joining us on the programme this evening. I wonder if you think the meeting tomorrow will bring anything significant. Do you trust the United States after the initial deal was formed behind Ukraine's back?
America always does the right thing after exhausting all the other options. That was not said by the Ukrainian president. It was said by Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and it is as correct now as it was back then. We are seeing various steps being taken, various possibilities being explored. We just see that it all misses central mark. There is no trust to Russia in any deal. If it's just a question of a piece of paper that should guarantee the future stability of Europe and the largest war since Second World War in Europe ending, there needs to be something far more than just well wishes and hopes, when the reality of what Russia has done is lie and lie some more at every step of this reality. So there needs to be something far more on the table for truly peace to be imagined.
And as the talks continue, there are still missiles being fired at Ukraine. Dnipro, for example, hit 4 people killed. Obviously, you want an end to this war, don't you? But the Russian demands continue to be that Ukraine retreats from areas of the Donbas region that it still holds. Is there any way that Kyiv will give in to those sorts of demands?
Sadly, it's far more than just the attacks on Dnipro. When you look at the whole of the front line, which is many times the size of the front lines of the First World War, for example, the famous Western Front, the attacks, drones, rockets, artillery barrages, various attacks are multiplied in the hundreds. The truth is that when we are discussing what's political peace, we understand that giving up the most well-defended, the most well-guarded part of the east to Russia isn't something that gives us peace. It's something that gives us on a platter to whatever next step will be done by Russia. I must remind everybody that 8 years of negotiations, what happened before the full-scale invasion. I must remind the fact that Ukraine signed off the 3rd biggest nuclear arsenal in the world for guarantees on paper from every side for Ukraine to be defended and to be protected. And it was all for nothing, because when Russia invaded, there wasn't much that was done in Crimea or in the east in the first part of the war.
Are you saying you still feel on your own in many respects?
We feel many countries that are supporting us, United Kingdom being first among them. But when we are discussing this reality, you must understand that, again, pieces of paper and good words don't provide the protection that our nation needs to truly believe in any possibility of peace. Nobody wants peace more than Ukrainians, who never ask for any of this hell that has been brought upon us. But the fact is, we need far more on the table than all these weighty words and hopes.
All right. So what would it take? Because obviously there is going to be some compromise, isn't there? What will bring the peace that you seek?
That is exactly why Ukraine has its negotiating team engaging in every part of attempts to create a peace here in this effort, and every single step along the way that brought us here in Istanbul, in Geneva, in all of these in Riyadh. I mean, the truth is, we have engaged in every single attempt to make a durable peace on the ground. So a question of what compromise to take. It's a question also on the table that can stop Russia from trying again in the future.
You've been on the front line. You know what it's like, the conditions and the fighting and the Russian advances, or their claimed Russian advances. If there is no end to this following this latest diplomatic round, do you feel confident that Ukraine can sustain further fighting into next year and beyond?
Indeed, I was the machine gunner in 24th Separate Assault Battalion Aidar last year. This year I'm a sergeant, giving me more of a chance to do many other things. But as far as the reality on the front line, too many of my friends and comrades in arms gave up everything they had for Ukraine to have a chance at an independent future, and for us to sacrifice everything for hopes for Russian good behavior is not something that is worthy of their sacrifice. Again, Ukrainian diplomacy is working in every single way to get that peace that our nation deserves and always wished for. But we cannot just accept all the niceties said by every side that's trying to get us here and hope for the best. And we are very glad that we have a whole network of allies from all around the world, United Kingdom being the first among them, as we are planning out the future.
Sviatoslav Yurash, thank you so much for talking to us this evening, taking the time. That's a Ukrainian MP from Vladimir Zelensky's party.